Boris Johnson's reshuffling of his cabinet would not look out of place in the gambling halls of Las Vegas, as the croupiers mix and match cards at an alarming rate. Then again, with Johnson clearly under the wing of his American counterpart, it seems the notion of cabinet reshuffling, or hiring and firing, is a trend shared by both blondes in the White House and in Downing Street alike. The first and probably most significant head to fall in the basket of Johnson's cull is that of the Chancellor Sajid Javid, just 4 weeks prior to the announcement of his first budget. Javid appears to have jumped before he was pushed, offering his resignation over a protest that he would not fire his advisors in order to keep his job. His replacement at the Treasury is 39-year-old Rishi Sunak. The appointment of Sunak is a surprising one, as just last year he was a junior minister, and promotion to essentially what is the number 2 spot in British politics must have come due to his over-obvious loyalty and yes sir no sir attitude to the Prime Minister. Brandon Lewis has also taken a role that comes as a surprise as Northern Ireland Secretary, as his predecessor Julian Smith has just recently negotiated the reinstatement of Stormont after years of stagnation in Belfast following the resignation of Martin McGuinness due to the renewable energy scheme failure by the DUP's Arlene Foster. Whilst many other positions have been filled, many see Javid as the main victim. However, with the British tabloids stating that Javid was pushed under a bus and labelling Johnson as power-hungry as he tightens his grip on Whitehall. With the Chancellor now gone and replaced, could then Johnson have one eye on the British economy as it approaches critical times ahead of the imminent economic catastrophe of pulling out of the European Union?
The UK has 1 year in which to renegotiate its relationship with Europe. That's virtually impossible. And it has 1 year to do things like establishing a new relationship with the USA. And I can tell you now that that's going to be just an opportunity for Donald Trump to crush the UK. See, the whole idea of Brexit is really the UK taking on the world again, and we were British Empire, and we are stronger than Europe, and we are stronger than USA. That is complete and absolute nonsense. But he is now trying to do a fascist line, saying, yes, glory, glory, I represent the nation, I am the strong man, I will go ahead, I will solve your problems.
Dominic Cummings has over 2 decades' experience in the upper echelons of government and was the mastermind behind Johnson's successful Brexit strategy that saw the UK come crashing out of the EU, with a little help from the boot of the EU negotiating teams that saw off the British with ease. Cummings, like 50% of the new Johnson cabinet, are all Oxbridge graduates and has used his position as an advisor to bring those loyal to Johnson close enough for the PM to be able to hold control over all government departments, hence eliminating the notion that rival factions can gain control over any government department. The centralisation of control essentially sees Cummings pulling the strings, with Johnson duly abiding by his puppet master's voice and commands. The UK tabloid newspaper The Daily Mirror took the opportunity to highlight this factor, stating that nobody dare question the PM, and that the UK is now controlled by a government filled with spineless stooges. With the fact that Johnson and Cummings have now taken the angle of centralised power over power sharing, ex-MP George Galloway has stated that Johnson wants to micromanage all his departments in the quest as Prime Minister.
It is a serious statement. You are looking at somebody, that's Johnson, who is going for a completely autocratic view and in which all policy is imposed. And real leaders, they get one policy, but they get it through people agreeing to come. And that is the difference. And in the case of Boris Johnson, when we start to look at some of the detail coming along, I'm afraid you start to get a bit of a shock.
It seems that Johnson now has 2 masters, one on each side of the Atlantic, with Trump dealing the cards on the international arena and Cummings shuffling the pack at home. What is for sure is that Johnson will now lead the UK through one of the most critical times in their history since World War II, and he must now be careful not to go bust and spill all his cards for all to see.